Well, for much of the country today, it was a beautiful autumn day, but not so much for certainly the interior Northeast, which is getting some much needed rain. Meanwhile, weather conditions have improved across eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England in general, but it remains a rather cool and unstable week, especially the second half. Not so much tomorrow. But we'll talk all about that. We might have a new tropical storm on the map tomorrow. So we'll discuss that too tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Don't we look so handsome in that graphic, Joe? And the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by Amazon. If you shop on Amazon, that is, if AWS is working, uh, well, use our referral link that's on the descriptor to this podcast to take you there and do your shopping. And Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin for you taking that particular trip via the link. And the money comes out of their pocket, not yours. It doesn't cost you one extra cent. Whatever you spend, you spend. And it's a great way to keep the commercials on this show minimal, at least during the live stream. So we appreciate very much those of you who have used our Amazon referral link. And if you need a weather station, especially if you've got a weather freak for a partner or a friend or a relative or your kid, Tempest by WeatherFlow, the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Oops, I lost Joe. Hold on. He's coming back. Anyway, it's the revolutionary Tempest weather system. You join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for this is on the descriptor to this podcast, as well as on the pin to the top of the chat board. Use the coupon code that R. Joe Rayo, who in deep down inside really wanted to be Jay Stewart, will tell you what the coupon code is.
Well, before I give the coupon code, are you aware that for about 30 seconds we had dead silence?
Yes, I am. Yeah, it was one of those occasional internet hits
Yes. Okay.
that I've been getting. They're still going on. And anyway, by the way, with Zoom especially, because Zoom is through Amazon Web Services, and there was a big outage, they are impacted. So that could very well be also the issue here. But anyway, they want to know about the coupon code, Joe Rayo.
The coupon code is Autumn 2025, and if you happen to use that when you're purchasing anything from Tempest, you will get a great big 10% off.
And if everybody will notice that we have a special guest on tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, it's my dog
We do.
JJ, who is
Oh,
who's
yes, yes.
taken his favorite spot to sleep during the show, which we hope our audience doesn't do, by the way. But no matter. Joseph Carr is first to the tip jar tonight, Joe. Thank you, Joseph, for hitting super chat. Very much appreciated. So I got to 35 this morning, and I spent the day clearing out most of my kitchen cabinets because my new cabinets are being installed on Thursday. And yes, Cecilia Hernandez, thank you for noticing. Thank you for noticing. Yes, I have a slew of flannel shirts. So I've brought out the first flannel shirt of the season because it was cold here this morning. 35 here in the mountains of North Georgia.
It was wet here this morning, but we didn't get quite as much rain as what was suggested that we might see. We did pick up locally here in Putnam Valley about 0.14 inches. Actually, we had 0.11 this morning, and then we had another 0.03 during the midday hours as it started to once again shower. Right now, it's just cloudy and a bit breezy, but we're expecting the skies to clear during the latter part of the overnight hours, and that should set the stage for a lovely Tuesday, an unseasonably warm Tuesday, with temperatures in many localities, Joe, pushing toward or maybe even above 70 degrees.
And then another cold front passes, which should be less active than this one, but it does set up the second half of the week where we have this really deep upper low. When I show you the upper air, I mean, it's a pretty deep trough that comes into the eastern part of the United States, and it's going to create a rather chilly, unstable air mass. It also is going to, now, if it were a month from now, we probably would be talking about lake effect snows in upstate New York. Instead, it'll probably be cold lake effect showers, maybe even a little bit of grapple in some of the higher points in western and northern New York. But we're sort of stair stepping, and it's kind of typical for this time of year. You get these troughs that start to get deeper and come down out of Canada and create cold air aloft, daytime heating, self-destruct sunshine. I think that's kind of the way we're going to paint this for certainly Wednesday and Thursday, maybe even for part of Friday.
And we shall see if that indeed does become the case. I noticed that on Climate Prediction Center, Joe, that they are suggesting above normal precipitation for not just the Northeast, but for much of the country, not only in their 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, but in their 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook. And in fact, they are also suggesting that for much of the eastern half of the country, that there's a slight risk of excessive or heavy precipitation between October 28th and November the 1st. So it might very well be that we could have some wet weather for the trick-or-treaters. We'll see.
Welcome tonight to everybody on the chat board, and for those of you lurking in the background on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, we welcome you as well. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And by the way, I don't send those notifications out. YouTube does. And my understanding is that their systems, as huge as Google is, I mean, they don't always send out notifications in time for the show. So if you don't get your YouTube notification, I do put Joe and I both posted on Facebook, and I think I may have lost Joe once again here because of this Zoom issue. So just give it a moment because Zoom is coming back. But uh, again, now I forgot what was I saying. Oh, about notifications. So if you check my Facebook page or Joe's Facebook page, we post links to the show every day that we have a show or if we're adding one. It's also on Twitter. If you follow, I'm on X. If you follow me on X, I post it on LinkedIn. If you follow me on LinkedIn, and it's also on my subscription platform on Patreon. So if you don't get YouTube's notifications, you have all these other options. And by the way, if you go join my Patreon page, my Patreon platform, the link to the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is visible to everybody. You don't have to be a subscriber in order to get the link. And I usually send that out around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Some days a little earlier, some days a little later. Why don't we take a look? Why don't we start off? And again, I also want to warn you, as I said earlier today, there's this AWS problem with Amazon is impacting Zoom. So if Joe disappears or if we both disappear, it seems to be coming right back within about 15 or 20 seconds. So just I appreciate everybody's patience with regards to that. Though you might not lose my voice while we do this. So I've got the satellite loop, Mr. Rayo, with respect to this disturbance that is in the Eastern Caribbean, which is usually not a place where storms develop. There's a sort of a semi-permanent area of wind shear that comes off South America in the eastern part of the Caribbean, but every so often it does relax, and I think that's what we're seeing here. It's a fairly well-defined system. The Hurricane Center is was saying that now a 90% chance that this is going to become a tropical depression or a tropical storm, quite possibly overnight or by tomorrow. They still are waiting to see a well-defined closed circulation, which I'm not quite seeing here yet on the loop. It'll restart again. I added some frames so I can get a little bit of a better perspective. This is going to be around for a while, Joe. It's going to try to move across the Caribbean, but it's going to have a bit of a after a certain point, it may just kind of come to a grinding halt somewhere south of Cuba and Jamaica. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, well, remember, we're getting into late in the season now. You know, the peak of the hurricane season traditionally is September the 10th, and usually a month before and month after, you have rather active conditions. We're now moving toward the latter part of October. Yes, I know Sandy did hit this area on October the 29th, but still, uh, precipitation. But on the other hand, you know, we saw and we talked about last week with the occurrence of La Nina now, the official pronouncement that we're in La Nina.
I think Joe just Zoom just dropped out again, so let's see if it comes back. I guess you guys can still hear me. I hope you can. So we'll just give it a moment here and see if it reloads. I hope this is not going to wind up being a problem all night long. So good. You hear me. That's a good sign. So let me see if I can get Joe back. Um, hang on, Mr. Rayo. It's coming. Okay, so Zoom is now reloading, so let's see how this goes. You look at the loop, by the way, you'll notice that there is a little bit of shear there that is going on. Uh, Joe, you dropped out just for a moment there. Well, maybe a little bit more than a moment. So this might be an ongoing issue during tonight, just so you know. But anyway, yeah, if it usually this time of year we see a basic contraction of the development area as the ocean cools, as autumn takes over, as stronger westerly winds in the upper atmosphere drop further and further south to the subtropical region. So if you're going to see some development normally from mid-October on, and there are exceptions to that, but normally from mid-October on, it's going to be in the Caribbean. We've got 3 super chat hits to tell you about here. Thank you, Frank R. And Gary Crosby and Quiet John. Joe, Quiet John is on the hit the tip jar tonight.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
all.
you so much. Most appreciated. As always. So we're going to keep an eye on this. The Hurricane Center. Let me see if this is the 8 o'clock. And yes, it is at 8 o'clock. They have a 90 and 90% in the next 48 hours, 90% in the next 7 days. And basically saying the system still appears to lack a closed surface circulation, but environmental conditions are soon forecast to become more conducive for development. A tropical depression or a tropical storm is expected to form within the next day or two while the system slows its forward motion over the central Caribbean Sea. Regardless of development, heavy rain, gusty winds possible over portions of the ABC Islands. What are the ABC Islands? Do you know? I mean, is that opposed to the NBC Islands or the CBS Islands?
I don't know. Is that anywhere near Zero Island? Those of you
Right,
who are
yes,
fans of,
right, with
fans of
Colonel
Bleep,
Colonel Bleep, yes.
Yeah.
Squeak and scratch.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Do you know where the ABC Islands are? I mean, is that an acronym for Aruba, Barbados? No, it can't be. Barbados is too far east. I don't know. Chorus? No, that's too far. That's on South of you're closer to South America with respect to Curacao. Anyway, you get the idea. Wherever the ABC Islands are during the next couple
The
of
ABC,
days.
the ABC Islands are the physical group of Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao.
Oh,
The
Curacao. So I
three,
got 2 out of 3.
the three westernmost islands of the Leeward Antilles in the Caribbean Sea, and these islands have shared a political history and a status of Dutch underlying ownership going back to the Anglo-Dutch Treaty of 1814, ceded them back to the Kingdom of the Netherlands as Curacao and de, 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 dependencies from 1815. Anyway, that's what the ABC Islands are.
Thank
They're
you.
Dutch, and there they are.
All right. On the national map, not a whole lot going on in terms of adverse weather. There's some wind advisories and high wind watches up for parts of the Dakotas. The east is fairly quiet. We've got some frost and freeze issues in western Kansas, northwest Texas, and eastern Colorado, and also in a couple of counties in northwest Colorado, northern Utah, and southwest Idaho. So the system here in the east is really kind of dominating everything with respect to the low, which is now up in right on the Vermont New York state line, about halfway up the state of Vermont. And at least this system is bringing some decent rain, or has brought some decent rain to New England today. And it's been raining in many places up in New England for much of the day. But you can see on the surface map that the next cold front is approaching from the west, and that is with a low there that's up in northern Minnesota. The gradient is going to tighten up a bit to over the Dakotas, and the trailing cold front is running south down through Missouri into Oklahoma and into northern Texas. Meanwhile, we had a absolutely fantastic weather day in the much of the U.S. I'm going to switch over to the continental U.S. here, and we'll take a look at this loop, and I'll stretch it out so we can get a couple of extra frames. But this is probably one of the clearest satellites that I've seen across the U.S. in a long time, particularly because it's autumn. So we're talking quality air here. It's not like we have heat, humidity, and going on in the south or anything. I mean, it's just was basically cloud-free skies from California all the way east to through the to the middle Atlantic states.
Well, it was beautiful through much of the contiguous United States, but unfortunately, up here in the Northeast, as you mentioned at the top of the show, Joe, we had a lot of clouds out there. Some blue patches from time to time, and a little bit of sunshine, but it was mainly cloudy. Now, the way things are moving, since we're in kind of a southwesterly flow, both aloft and at the surface, the cloud cover is going to lift to the north and east out of our area, and that will allow for skies to become partly cloudy to clear later tonight. And when many of you wake up tomorrow morning, you should wake up to mainly sunny conditions, which will be very, very nice.
The radar tonight still busy. There's some heavier rains up in northern New York. And by the way, you can see that the echoes in Maine are moving from south to north, while the echoes in New York State are moving basically from north to south. And that rain is even on the Canada side, up the St. Lawrence Valley toward Montreal and into Quebec. So some good news, some much needed rain for parts of northern New England here. And we've got some showers uh, with the next weather system as we take a look back through to Minnesota, Wisconsin, down into Iowa. There's some heavier rains in there, also some lighter rains. Not seeing much of a way of convection. That's moving eastward. That stuff is probably not going to hold together as it moves eastward. Some of it might. I threw in the risk. I've been mentioning the risk that we could probably see a couple of showers running around, although scattered, Tuesday night and then on Wednesday. And Wednesday, I think, is going to be one of those days where you may actually start out with, you might have clouds and some sun from time to time, and other times you may just go overcast and you wind up with a shower or two.
Yeah, it looks like the main batch of any precipitation from this next front will probably be hitting us during the overnight hours tomorrow night and exiting early on Wednesday. But you bring up a good point, Joe. The atmosphere being as unstable as it is may very well give rise to maybe a late day shower on Wednesday. And then we go back to a slowly improving weather pattern for Thursday, Friday, and next weekend, which, believe it or not, next weekend is the last weekend of October.
It is. And once we get to Halloween, as you know, I have always said that from Halloween to Christmas Eve, it's like one long day, and it goes by very, very quickly. No severe weather is in the outlook for the next three forecast periods, so that's good news. We do have the potential for some heavy rains in parts of the southern plains and in the lower and Mississippi River and Missouri River valleys uh, later this week, and maybe going into the weekend. Uh, WPC is indicating an area of 2.5 to 3 inches plus in areas of northeast Texas, western Arkansas, northwest Louisiana, eastern Oklahoma, southwest Missouri, and also into southeastern Kansas, with some lighter amounts as you fan out to the east and to the west. Also, the Pacific Northwest, with energy that's out in Alaska that's going to be dropping southward, several to many inches of rain, especially along the coast where we're seeing 5 to 7 inches or more from Northern California up to Washington State and over Vancouver Island and into British Columbia. So some wet weather there and probably some snow in the higher ups in the Canadian Rockies, and lesser amounts as you go further south. Not much precip in the mid-Atlantic states or even up into southern New England. We're looking at maybe a few hundredths to a tenth, perhaps outside chance that somebody gets a quarter of an inch. But still, some ample 1/2 to 3/4 inch additional rains overnight and down the road for northern New York and for northern New England. So good news for the folks in New England. It's going to take a bunch of those kind of weather events in order to get rid of this drought that you're experiencing. So one trough, there's an upper low that's sitting in southern Vermont and New Hampshire that's going to lift out, but you can see the deeper trough that is back through upper low, North Dakota into Minnesota. That's going to come into the east. That's a pretty deep trough for this time of year. Westerly's going all the way down to Florida. And then it takes until Friday night, early Saturday for that trough to pull out. The flow kind of normalizes a bit. You can also see the energy that's coming into the west, a fairly deep trough that comes into the western part of the United States. Interesting pattern here, Joe. It's kind of split. You've got a flow out of Canada over the weekend into the northeast and into the mid-Atlantic states. There's a bit of a southern jet, and then you got this deep trough that's in the western part of the United States, and there's an upper high sitting over over Lake Superior. I mean, this sort of suggests to me that at least, we get to the latter part of the week when the trough pulls out, and maybe the weekend, this upcoming weekend in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states should be okay. But eventually, some of that Pacific energy may start to come eastward next week.
Yeah, and as I said, CPC, Climate Prediction Center, is kind of suggesting.
Joe has dropped out again, so just give me a moment. We'll get him back. We'll get him back momentarily.
Use precipitation.
Hey, Joe, can you repeat what you said? Because you briefly dropped out. I apologize to everybody for this, but this is not my doing. This is Zoom and the AWS problem that Amazon is having. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, just saying again that CPC, the Climate Prediction Center, is suggesting toward the end of the month that we may get into a pattern of above normal precipitation, and that may mean wet weather around Halloween. But again, it's something that much of the Northeast, especially in upstate New York and New England, could use some of that moisture to help to alleviate the drought situation. So it may get a little unsettled as we move on toward the end of October and the beginning of November.
One of the things, folks, you should pay attention to in the long range is what I find kind of interesting here. We getting these deep troughs that are basically undercutting the flow out of Canada and coming into the eastern part of the United States. But keep an eye on what goes on in Alaska, because after the end of the month, we are seeing the models are trying to make a very deep cutoff over the Aleutians that runs down to Hawaii. And when you get a setup like this, this is where you pump up the ridge along the west coast, and you can see there's this big ridge that builds in northern Canada northwest Canada up toward the Arctic regions, and then you got this massive trough that the model's picking up on. Now, it's probably going to change somewhat as we get closer, but I've noticed in the last 4 or 5 days that the models are trying to make for a deep trough, right at 160. So usually when you have a deep trough at 160 degrees west, or the longitude of of the westernmost Hawaiian Islands, you wind up with a ridge in the west, and you wind up with a trough in the east, and a colder flow of air coming into Canada. This is not, if this were to verify anything close to this, is not a pattern where you start talking about above normal temperatures.
No, although the overall look for 6 to 10 and 8 to 14 days here in the Northeast is for the higher probability for above normal temperatures, but it's a pattern that certainly does not carry through for a very long stretch of time. In other words, we might very well see that break down and might see some much colder conditions redevelop over this part of the country as we move into the month of November.
And the above normal is probably, I mean, we're not talking about, super
No,
above
we're not talking
normal. We're
about 80s
probably
or
talking
90s.
about a handful of degrees above normal,
Yeah, yeah.
which totally makes sense. So I have Briller Jeopardy tonight.
I do believe so. I had it last night.
Okay, so let me see if everything cooperates here. I should be able to pull it up, and I'm trying. So here we go. Let's see if it happens. You know, uh, okay, so we're continuing with average highs for October, Joe, and we're going to start tonight off with Minneapolis. And by the way, did you look at that? Did I send you the clip of from the Mary Tyler Moore show with Sue Ann? Joe, did I lose you again?
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, oh,
I
there you
think
go. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Well, here I am again. What else can I say?
I know. No, I said, did I send you that clip of from the Mary Tyler Moore show? Speaking of Minneapolis.
You've sent me quite a few clips over recent days. I haven't had a chance to go through all of
Oh,
them yet, though.
You have to go look at them. They're very funny, including the most recent one which is a commercial for Pepsodent toothpaste. Anyway,
Okay.
Minneapolis is the first number on the up, and we've got a couple of people here that got it. Joe, John Sachs, 77, Mark Franz Senior, and Bobby Livingsworth, and Miss Fallerite at 58. 58. And Mike Waterhouse Bonsai, too, 58. So let's try the next one, Joe. Nashville. Average high for October in Nashville.
Okay. Well, didn't we have last night? Did we have Memphis
Yes,
last night? Okay,
we
and
did.
I would suspect.
You can cheat and look it up.
Well, I suspect that Memphis and Nashville aren't overly different, or not, much different from each other. Memphis was 75, so I'm going to take a guess and say that Nashville is 73.
Oh, oh,
Ah,
oh,
ah.
oh, it's so close it hurts. I'm waiting for somebody on the chat board. And Frank R. has picked up on this, as well Chuck Cardillo. 74, Joe, 74.
Okay.
Okay, let's go south of Nashville to the other music city, the city of jazz, New Orleans.
New Orleans. What could possibly be New Orleans? Well, I'll say for New Orleans, I'll say 77.
That is a little low. Okay. It's not close enough to warrant a, oh. But Rich Rothmansky nailed it at 81. 81. So did Rock Roll at 81. Now, the next one is New York City.
Well, New York City, I will say for New York, uh, 64.
Oh,
Ah,
oh, So close. But Mike Waterhouse, Bonsai, Frank R., Christina Pedia, Rich Rothmansky, Thomas Timothy Douglas, and all the saints who have done your will throughout the ages. 65, 65. Next one is Oklahoma City.
OKC.
OKC. OKC.
OKC. I'll say for OKC, Oklahoma City, I will say 72.
Oh, oh, I'm clutching my pearls, Joe. Conroy Jet, Johnny Sachs or John Sachs and William Uber getting that one correctly at 73. So you've been hitting, not home runs, but a lot of doubles and triples tonight. And so did
Okay.
and Frank Scalera and Chuck Cardillo also. Add to that. All right, the bonus tonight is the Valley of Death.
Oh, Death Valley?
Yes.
Death Valley. What possibly could be Death Valley? Well, I will say for Death Valley, I will say 91.
That's a really, really good guess. That is a very good guess. In a place where you'd be tempted to go higher, you got it actually very close. Rich Rothmansky nails it. Rich, if Rich doesn't nail him, he gets him within a degree or two. 93. 93
Wow. Okay.
is the winning answer. So, anyhow, we somehow made it through the show, and now I haven't lost you for the last 5 or 10 minutes, so that's a plus. Just trying to think. I did see your Facebook post about the new element. I thought that was very funny.
Oh, Administratium?
Yeah, which is there's so much truth to that. Anybody who's worked in a corporate environment could certainly relate to it. I thought it was very funny. Did you take any heat for it?
No, I didn't. A lot of people have indicated that they like it very much. In fact, let me just see. I'm surprised. I've only had 4 people share it, and there have been 5 comments.
Well, it's it's
Uh,
it's it's not angry enough, Joe. You have to put up angry posts in order to get the Facebook algorithm to what's the word I'm looking for? Distribute it.
CJ, I had 5 comments, and one of them was from a person by the name of CJ Miller. And CJ Miller wrote, "This is perfect. Too bad the majority of your intended audience is too dumb to understand it."
Wow.
Uh, and another person, Stephanie Winus or Winus, said, "I agree with C.J. Miller. The duh factor is amazing." Any of you want to see what I'm talking about, what we're talking about, just go to my Facebook page, Joe Rayo Weather on Facebook, and you can see for yourself what we're talking about. It is, again, the brand new element added to the periodic tables, Administratium.
All right. Very good. Okay, I think we could wrap it up tonight. Uh, Again, folks, I apologize for the in and out that's been going on, but hopefully this thing settles down and things get better uh, tomorrow. And keep our fingers crossed on that. So everybody have a great night. Appreciate everybody for coming tonight and watching us. Remember, we're here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. There are no schedule changes this week, and no plans on adding any shows on Friday and Saturday, which means after Thursday we'll be back come Sunday. Quiet John, Gary Crosby, Frank R., all banging the tip jar tonight. Thank you for that. Don't forget, if you want to support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, you do your Amazon shopping, use our referral link to get you there. Doesn't cost you a dime out of your own pocket. Amazon sends us a little bit of coin, keeps the show from having commercials, which is good. This live version of the show, anyway. And also, if you're looking for a weather station, look no further than Tempest by Weatherflow. That link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the description to this podcast. And don't forget the coupon code, Joe Rayo.
Autumn 2025, and yeah, Christopedia says, I remember Joe Rayo on Walk, WALK in the 80s. No, I was not on Walk. I was actually on their competitor, WBLI 106, but I was not on Walk. So, and I was, of course, also, as Cecilia Hernandez mentioned, I was on News 12 Westchester for 21 years. But for about 5 years, I used to fill in for the guy who's been next to me these past several years, Mr. Chiappi, who was the morning guy at News 12. And whenever he decided he wanted a day off, guess who used to fill in for him?
You did.
Yes.
Yes, you did. And then we both finished our corporate careers together at Fios One.
Yeah.
Which is no longer with us. Anyhow, all right. See everybody tomorrow. Okay. Have a great night and a good day on Tuesday. Ta ta. Oh, JJ. By the way, JJ did not. He always usually jumps off the bed when after the show starts and sleeps on the floor. He actually slept through the whole show. It shows you how exciting he finds it. So there you go. Everybody have a great night.